That's right, Jaws gets a limited release for its 40th anniversary, which is so well deserving for so many things. And since Star Wars' 40th anniversary is coming soon, why not we get a re-release of that? This shit will be crazy. I don't know, I'm just saying. Okay, so Jaws. Jaws follows the story of New England Police Chief Martin Brody, where he and his family recently moved from New York to Amity Island, where they get adjusted to their new home. Until one night, a young woman is killed by a great white shark, convincing Brody to close down the beaches, but due to possible loss of tourist attraction, the mayor of Amity Island refuses. And after many shark attacks that happen within the island, Brody gathers an oceanographer and a fisherman to go out at sea and hunt down the beast. Now, I'm not gonna have a lead-up speech determining whether this movie is good or not, because in all honesty, Jaws is one of the most iconic films ever made. Not only did it put one of the greatest directors of all time, Steven Spielberg, on the map, but it also helped defy the term summer blockbuster. Because people seriously back then lined up around the movie theater busting the block, and it was the first movie to break $100 million. And back in 1975, it was the highest grossing movie of all time for 2 years. That is, until Star Wars came out and just changed everything. It was a big deal back then, and it's still a big deal now, because if it wasn't for Jaws, we wouldn't have the summer blockbuster movies that we have today. So if you haven't seen it by now, what are you doing with your life? You don't have to be a film fanatic like me to enjoy how great Jaws is. Because everybody in this movie, acting-wise, absolutely knocks it out of the park. Roy Scheider as Brody plays a man who truly cares about the safety of the public. His first act when learning about the first shark attack was to close down the beaches, where at that point he couldn't really do much because the mayor basically told him to go fuck himself. And he gets stressed out, making the desire within himself and wanting to get rid of the shark for good. Matt Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss, is sort of like the comic relief and the brains of the group. He knows all there is to know about ocean life, so it's very helpful to provide the science behind the shark. And Robert Shaw as Quint plays this fisherman who has an enormous amount of experience at sea and basically wants to get paid that $10,000 reward that was offered to kill the shark. And it's amazing to see how fleshed out and realistic all these characters are through the continuous long takes and the dialogue between the characters. And each character has their monologue that helps define their character. And my favorite out of all of them was when Quint tells his tale about his experience on the Indianapolis. It was not only very haunting, but it lets everybody know that this guy just wasn't all the way there. It ended up being one of the best delivered monologues in film history, and I can see why. Now, the funny thing about Jaws is that it's obviously an animatronic when you see it, but behind the scenes there were so many problems with the shark. It would either keep breaking down or it would just sink all the way down to the water, and even got to the point where it almost got Steven Spielberg fired as director. But through the brilliance of Steven Spielberg, he wanted to make sure that the audience doesn't see the actual shark halfway through the movie. He suggested to the cinematographer that he films the shark's point of view beneath the water, so it's kind of like a thriller like the beginning of the movie. And towards the end of Jaws, it turns into this fun adventure, so having all these genres piling up into one movie, from that to a thriller and even a comedy, mind you. And it all works for this movie and it executes it perfectly. But that was only about 50-55% of Jaws. The one person that helped enhance the thriller and even the success of Jaws was John Williams. This guy is one of the most, if not the greatest film composer of all time. There are so many films that he made better through his score. And honestly, I can't even imagine watching Jaws without the score playing along. It would definitely be a different film. And it's also a funny story because when John Williams came up to Steven Spielberg, he's like, oh yeah, I think I got the theme down, and then he plays the theme for Steven Spielberg, and Steven was like, oh yeah, that's good, but what do you really have, like really? And John Williams like, well, that's it. That's the theme of the movie. Little did he know, Spielberg would go on to constantly hiring Williams for his movies, from E.T., Jurassic Park, and Indiana Jones, and it was all thanks to Jaws. Because overall, Jaws is one of the greatest movies to come out in the 70s and easily one of the best ever made. The acting was great, the characters felt extremely realistic and even had a lot of heart to them. The shark was menacing, extremely big, and has one of the greatest villain themes of all time. Having the brilliance of Steven Spielberg and John Williams together is the reason why Jaws still holds up today, because Jaws is absolutely legendary. Dun 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 dun. It's one of those movies where even if you watch it as a kid, you'll like it because, you know, sharks and everything, but as an adult, for me personally, I appreciated Jaws even more. And it just gets better and better as it ages, and I highly suggest that you see it on the big screen while you still can. It's an absolute experience, you guys, but have you seen Jaws, and what did you think about it? Of course you've seen Jaws. But whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below. And as always, there's a link for my Twitter and my Facebook in the description as well. Keep in contact with me, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, but in the meantime, I have to get going to not go to the beach because this movie still terrifies me. It still terrifies me, you guys.